What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for June 18th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday. That means it's time for our little dose of positivity / motivation. And today's quote comes from one of our favorites on here, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I told you about his book, which I highly recommend. Be Useful. This is not a paid promotion or anything like that. It's just I think it was a good book. A lot of good tidbits and things in there. And I also follow his daily newsletter. And there's always some good things in there as well when it comes to workouts, recipes, and just motivation in general. A few weeks ago, I saw this quote, and it really hit home for me in a few different aspects of my life. But the quote is, "You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket." And to me, that just goes right in line with the things we've been talking about here on our Tuesdays. And it's everybody wants the instant gratification. Everybody wants to be at the top, and nobody necessarily wants to put in the work. And if you think about climbing a ladder, it's doable, but it's almost nearly impossible to do it without using your hands as you're climbing up, especially the higher you get. So to me, that symbolizes more roll up your sleeves. It's time to get to work, and you're going to get there. It's going to take you some time. It's not going to be super easy, but with the hard work and the dedication, you'll get there. So to me, climbing the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket, or you can't climb the ladder of success with your hand in your pocket, just really hit home. And whether it's relationships, I've been very vocal about my weight loss journey since the beginning of the year. Whether it's growing this podcast, my day job, doing things, it's just you need to put in the work and know that it's more. It's a journey. It's a long, hard road to get there, and you're not going to just snap your fingers and be there. And I think that quote really, to me, symbolizes a lot of what we've been talking about on our Tuesdays. But I highly recommend the book. I highly recommend signing up for the newsletter. And if you can take this quote this week, and especially because it's the summertime, things slow down. You can sometimes lose focus on what your end goal is. But if you're able to really just go and focus on climbing that ladder one rung at a time to get where you need to be, you will be successful. So you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket. That is today's Tuesday motivation / positivity. All right. A couple quick housekeeping notes. First and foremost, nickname tournament is coming up Monday. I'm looking forward to it. The selection show will be on Friday. The brackets will be released. I'll break down some of the matchups, give you the rules, but basically 64 teams, 4 regions, 2 matchups a day. You guys vote on the ultimate Philly sports nickname. Spread the word with it. And then after Friday, you can rip me nonstop for what my choices were. But be sure to follow the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. On Twitter and TikTok, Jimbo_Mont. Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. You name it, you can do it. But spread the word, subscribe, tell your friends, because this is going to be fun. The NHL season is about to wrap up. The NBA season wrapped up yesterday. We have nothing but Phillies until training camp starts. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament. This weekend, I am going to be going away for a golf tournament, so Friday's podcast might be a little shorter. I got to look at the timing to see. I might have to record it the night before, so that way it's there. I got to leave super early, but we'll see. I will keep you posted as we get closer to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday will be a podcast. Not quite sure the timing yet. It'll be out in the morning, but what we'll do is I'll be on location out in the middle, north of Harrisburg. So stay tuned for that. Last thing with housekeeping, and yesterday I played in a golf tournament called Links for Lungs. and it was to raise money for research and help with treatment for local families and who suffer from lung cancer, but not the kind that most people associate lung cancer with. Oh, well, you smoke. These folks are ALK positive, which basically is a genetic mutation that causes the cancer. There is no rhyme or reason to who it affects. My mother-in-law suffers from it. The guy who runs the whole tournament, Dan Wilson, is a great guy. So I usually don't do this too often, but if you can consider donation to Links for Lungs, Links for Lungs Philly is the organization, and I know Dan, who runs it, is a great dude. Has three kids. Ironically enough, he met my mother-in-law through one of the sport groups, and I worked with his wife back when I used to teach. So there was a connection there. But if you could consider donating, you can go right to Links for Lungs Philly. And excuse me, it gives Dan's story, but his story is so much like others, and it's no rhyme or reason. And the money goes directly toward research, as well as supporting some of these families through their treatment, trials, and just trying to get some type of cure for this and sustainable cure. And it's just, again, there's a lot of stigma that goes along with lung cancer, thinking, oh, well, you smoke, so that's kind of what you deserve. And I can go on a rant about that, but I'm not, because I still don't even think that's fair. But these folks didn't smoke. It's just a random genetic mutation that they're trying to, and there's not a lot of research being done for it. It's not the main focus of cancer research. So the Links for Lungs organization does a great job. The Links for Lungs Philly, like I said, I usually don't like to do things like that, but if you could consider donating, you can go right to Links for Lung Philly, and you can go right through there. I would greatly appreciate it, and they would greatly appreciate it as well. All right, Phillies. Lots and lots of Phillies news, and we'll start, I guess, with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. Who was the odd man? Or no, I'm sorry, that was not the question of the day. The question of the day before, was who was the odd man out, and we talked about how everybody was pretty split. Well, it turns out that Johan Rojas was the odd man out. He was sent down, and I didn't realize David Dahl was out of options too. So Dahl and Pache are still on the team. And hopefully that'll give Rojas some time to work on some mechanics and things like that down in AAA. But I will say that move really amplifies one of the major needs the Phillies have as we approach the trade deadline, and that is an outfielder who can hit and they can play every day. And whether or not Marsh can play against lefties or not, it remains to be seen. I don't feel like they've given him an ample shot yet. Maybe that's because of what they've seen. I don't know. But to me now, we have a big need for a hitting outfielder that can play every day. I do think sending Rojas down hurts the defense somewhat, but I think some combination of Pache and Marsh in center, and then you got Dahl playing in left. You can throw Marsh in there. They need some help in the outfield. But at least we have a clearer picture now of what's going to happen, and we know. And I mean, Dombrowski is going to make the move. I mean, you can't be as good as the Phillies are right now and not go all in and try to go for it this year. But Rojas was the odd man out. And then on the field, it's amazing how they play at Citizens Bank Park. Just the home cooking, sleeping in their own bed, all of that. 9-2, they won. Christopher Sanchez was outstanding. Went 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, only gave up the 1 run. And then the offense really woke up, pounding out 18 hits. It's all, like I said, it's that home cooking, being able to sleep in their own beds and not have to worry about things. And there's a couple things, certain things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and Kyle Schwarber hitting home runs in June. He hit 2 last night, coincidentally on the first day of Hoagiefest, one of my favorite times of the year. Listen, I can go on the weight loss journey all I want, but I'm still a fat kid at heart. And yes, Hoagiefest is one of my favorite times. I will probably be at Wawa at least once a week this summer to get a hoagie. But that's a whole other story for another day. But they look to take that series against the Padres tonight. Aaron Nola's on the mound, looking to bounce back from his outing in Boston. But it's heating up, as Charlie Manuel used to say. It's hitting season. So let's get hitting. All right. So now we're going to move to a recap of the question of the day. And yesterday was the anniversary of one of probably the darkest days in Philly sports history. And that is when they traded Moses Malone for Jeff Ruland, who retired after 5 games. And then they traded the number 1 pick for Roy Hinson, who, as my uncle pointed out to me yesterday, was a Sixers killer and then couldn't do anything when he played for the Sixers. So I asked you, which trade was the worst or the most detrimental to the Sixers during that time frame? Was it trading the number 1 pick, trading Moses, or trading Barkley? And overwhelmingly, and I'd have to agree with this, 71% of you said it was trading the number 1 pick, which turned out to be Brad Daugherty, who was a great player for a good stretch there in the late 80s, early 90s for the Cavs. Would have looked good on the Sixers playing alongside Charles Barkley, but alas, they traded him away for Roy Hinson and $800,000. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. There will be another one later in the show, but you can always get in on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Answer the question of the day. Get anything Philly sports related off your chest. You name it, it's fair game. All right, now Sixers, though, sticking with them. And I really, the whole Joe and Paul George thing, like I said, like if Joe wants him, I'm more inclined to say go for it. And it's even funnier because the story came out yesterday that he was not supposed to be on NBA Countdown. But once he knew that Paul George was there, that's what led him to be on NBA Countdown. The Olympics are coming up, so I'm sure Joe's going to be doing some recruiting throughout. And whether or not it happens for this year or it's a future move, I'm okay with it. Like I said, let the big man sort of go out there and recruit. It's not something that he's done a lot of in the past. He's kind of just dealt the hands he've been played. And maybe this is a sign of maturity coming from Joe that he's going out and recruiting some of these guys, because it shows that he's like, I want to win, and he knows. I mean, he has to know that you have a short period of time and a short window of which you can win in. So to me, let him go out and recruit. And listen, there's times where we're like with Bryce, we're like, all right, let Bryce. Maybe we don't like the move, but if that's what Bryce wants, and to me, I think Joe has earned that. And if it's somebody that is going to make him feel comfortable when he's playing and ultimately play better, you never had that with Ben Simmons. In fact, Ben Simmons was very detrimental to Joe when he played. So if he thinks Paul George is going to be the answer for him and Tyrese, then you know what? Who am I to judge? And I keep saying this, and it's the truth. It sounds like a very big cop-out, but what they've been doing has not been working, so why not let the big man have a say? It's not like they don't have the money. So we'll see what happens with that. Now that the Celtics, I just got a little bit sick to my stomach there saying that, but they've won their 18th title now. It allows the teams, so part of the CBA, and I guess this is a new quirk to the CBA, the Sixers now and NBA teams are allowed to start to begin negotiating with their own free agents. Doesn't mean that they can sign them until June or July 6th, but they can start negotiating those contracts almost like it's like a hybrid of the NFL legal tampering, which we know. Just keep James Franklin away from any of it and we'll be fine. But it allows them to kind of get the deal done with Maxey. And I think it will we should be able to get a sense, I would think, of what Paul George's plans are. So if he's going to stay in LA, the Clippers right now have the opportunity to try to re-sign him. But we'll see what happens. The Sixers have a lot of cap space and a lot of roster spots to fill. But we should get a clearer picture of who will be available and who will not. Another player impacted on that would be OG Anunoby, because the Knicks now can begin to negotiate with him. Like I said, though, we'll see. I do think, I don't know, if Joe's out there actively recruiting and Paul George wants to play with Joe, then I think you'll not see him sign with the Clippers. I doubt that you're going to get anything definitive because it's a negotiating ploy. You can get more money out of the Sixers, but we'll see what happens. But buckle up. The NBA offseason is here, and this is probably the most pivotal since Joe's been here. So we'll see what happens. But again, I can't quit the Sixers. So I apologize all the time for all the Sixers coverage, but I can't quit them. All right. Not a lot of Eagles news, but single game tickets go on sale today. Good luck, because the ticket brokers are going to snatch them all up. And to be honest, your best bet is to wait till maybe the week of a game you want to go to. And then that's when season ticket members usually will sell their tickets. I know typically we'll put ours up like Monday or Tuesday, the week before a game. And typically, I'll be completely honest, we try to, certain games we'll try to make a little bit of money off of it. But for the most part, we're just looking to get our money back. So my advice, if you can't get tickets today, is just wait till the week of the game. And of course, there's going to be people out there, like the Christmas game last year, we jacked up the price. I'm not being completely transparent, but for the most part, like during the game, like during the season, week of the game, if nobody in our group, we now have 12 guys in our group, and if guys can't go, we'll just put them up, and we're trying to get face value. So that, if you can't get tickets, would be my advice to you. But they go on sale probably, I didn't see what time. I'm assuming like 10 o'clock is usually when they're on sale. But good luck. And if you need anything or need some advice on tickets, hit me up. No updates on Mishkov, but the Stanley Cup Game 5 is tonight. Could wrap up. Our old pal Bobrovsky could win a Stanley Cup. To me, let's just wrap it up. Get it over with. Let's start the offseason. The draft for the NHL is June 28th. The free agency period will start then July 1st. We're coming closer to a solution to this whole Mishkov update. But I'm ready to get the offseason started and truthfully kick off this ultimate Philly sports nickname tournament. Okay, today we're going to go back to 1950. And on this day in 1950, the A's lost both games of a doubleheader in Cleveland by a combined score of 28-2. They lost Game 1 7-0. Game 2 they lost 21-2, but Cleveland set the American League record for runs in the first inning with 14. The Major League record is 15. It was set by the Dodgers against Cincinnati in 1952. But it's not the most runs in a inning. It's the most runs in the first inning. But that 1950 A's team was absolutely terrible. They went 50-102, and really this started the shift in, like, it had been kind of building, but this started the shift of people rooting for the A's in Philly to begin starting to root for the Phillies. So the Phillies had those young players in the late 40s, and then all of a sudden, 1950, the Whiz Kids caught fire, and it just was, the A's were that bad, the Phillies were that good, and ultimately this is what led the A's to leave 4 years later to go to Kansas City because they never got the fans back after, because the Phillies obviously didn't, they sort of went down the drain. It was kind of like a flash in the pan for the 1950 Whiz Kids, but this was sort of the intersection of the Phillies becoming the top baseball team in Philly and the A's ultimately moving to Kansas City before heading out to Oakland, and now they're getting ready to move to Vegas. The A's franchise just cannot seem to find. Maybe it's like the curse of Connie Mack. I don't know, because they kind of forced him out. So maybe he is still cursing the A's to this day. And then speaking of curses, I'm going to give you a little bonus today. And on this day in 2007, the Curse of Billy Penn officially ended when the workers on top of the Comcast Center put the final beam up. And in order to break the curse, they put a little statue of William Penn, an American flag, and a small evergreen tree. And then later that summer, we all know what happened. The Phillies chased down the Mets, who choked, and were able to win the NL East, starting a streak of 5 straight division titles, including 2 trips to the World Series and that amazing championship in 2008. So maybe the A's need to do something. I don't know what the curse would be, but they need to somehow figure out how to break the curse of Connie Mack. Although the A's did win a World Series in the 80s, but it was an earthquake, so I don't know. But maybe it's the curse of Connie Mack, and he's making them move all those places. Who knows? But on this day in 1950, the A's lost both games of a doubleheader by a combined 28-2, including 21-2 in Game 2, a game where the Cleveland team scored 14 runs in the first inning, setting the American League record. And then in 2007, the curse of Billy Penn was finally broken when the little guy was put on top of the Comcast Center. Phillies went on to win the division that year, and then a year later, their first full season after the curse has been broken, they win the World Series. Coincidence? I think not. Finally today, our Phillies Memory Lane spotlight is Rick Schu, who was a first baseman and third baseman for the Phillies. He was an amateur free agent in 1980, spent 5 years in Philly from 84 to 87, and then came back in 91. Best known for replacing Mike Schmidt at third base. The Phillies, I guess, thought Mike was getting a little bit older, decided to move him to first base to save his knees a little bit. That was an experiment for the 1985 season. Quickly, in 1986, Rick Schu was moved to the bench. Von Hayes was moved to first base. Mike Schmidt returned back to third base and ultimately won the MVP in 1986. So he was way more comfortable at third than he was ever at first. But Rick Schu, for his credit, was a solid player off the bench at 250, 24 homers, 79 RBI. I remember he would fill in for Schmitty and Von Hayes during that time frame. But just never was the player that I guess the Phillies thought they would be, as was the case with most players they picked up in the 80s and late 80s and early 90s. Hence why there's a whole generation of Phillies fans like myself who just ultimately think everybody they sign is going to stink, because that ultimately is what happened. See Lance Parrish for that one. If you don't know who Lance Parrish is, for you youngsters out there, look it up. Possibly, and this is a hard thing to do, but possibly the worst free agent in Philadelphia sports history. Yes, I'm going there. But he was traded to the Orioles in 1988 and then signed back in 1991. But Rick Schu is today's Phillies Memory Lane spotlight of the day. The man who moved Mike Schmidt to first base and then quickly gave him third base back, which led to Mike Schmidt winning his third and final MVP award in 1986. All right. On this day in 2007, the curse of Billy Penn ended. Are the A's being cursed by Connie Mack? I don't know. It's superstitious, but hey, I'm a superstitious kind of guy. So that leads to today's question of the day. We're going to have a little bit of fun with superstition. And if you have your own, let me know that too. Comment on the social media, comment on the podcast. Give me your call on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. But let me know your favorite Philly sports superstition. And I have 3 here that I'm going to kind of throw out there for the poll. And I do all 3 of these. You wear the same jersey / outfit and this is more for Eagles and playoff games, but you wear the same clothes and you try to do everything the same. Telling someone not to watch the game. I missed the game the other day and they won. Well, you can't watch the game again. I know I do that all the time. I tell my wife, I'm like, go to bed. During the World Series run, like she would call her dad every game every game after the game started. She called him before the game started. One time they lost, so now she couldn't call. I made sure she didn't call him until after the first inning was over. And then there's a lot of folks out there who don't want to talk about the next round of the playoffs or the next game. Don't look ahead. Or is it something else? So what is your favorite sports superstition? Wearing the same jersey clothes, telling people not to watch or do something because they didn't do it for the last game, or not talking about future games, or something else. Let me know what your favorite Philly sports superstition is. All in honor of the Curse of Billy Penn, which ended today in 2007. The A's still could be being cursed by Connie Mack, but on this day in 1950, they got slaughtered by Cleveland. Cleveland set a record in Game 2 of a doubleheader with 14 runs in the American League record with 14 runs in the first inning. But we're slowly getting to the dog days, looking forward to the nickname tournament. Nola's on the mound tonight for the Phils as they look to win this series. It's amazing what a little home cooking can do. Maybe they'll go to Wawa and get some hoagies. Again, that is not a paid promotion, but Wawa, if you want, you can completely hook me up. Be sure to check out my boys over at Philly Goat. They have you covered, whether it's a Schwarber, whether it's the Less Than an Athlete shirt from LeBron, the shoes, any of that. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. It's going to be hot out there, so if you are outside, be sure to stay hydrated. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for June 18th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, remember, you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket.